Okay, this is question 2 of the organic worksheet. I'm just going to go through the solution again. Hopefully you don't ramble as much, but no promise. I think question 2 is still name the following, and pretty sure this is going to be homework for you. So we'll go through the same step. Hopefully we'll get a little bit faster at it by this point, but I'm just going to write everything still. You don't really have to show this working out. You can just write the final answer. So step 1 is I'm going to look at the suffix. So you have a triple bond, which is alkyl, and then you have CC. So C triple bond is alkyl, and then you have C single bond C, which is alkane. But alkyl takes a higher priority, so my molecule is going to end with R, Y, and E. The second step is to identify the longest carbon chain. There's only one chain here. You do have to consider the carbon down here because it's still linked to the chain. It's not a branch or anything. So the longest chain contains 4 carbon or bute. No branching. You do need to consider and indicate the position of the triple bond, however, because it could either be between 1 and 2 and 2 and 3. So I'm going to start from this end. 1, 2, 3, 4. And I finish with the name. So bute 1I. Question 2. B. Still question 2. Now this is good. So let's think about this. Once again, you get better with practice, hopefully by the end of this year. By the end of this week, you should be able to recognize that this is a carboxylic acid. This is a carboxyl group. So carboxyl is always the highest priority. Now just to recap, a carboxyl looks like this. So C double bond O, OH, that's a carboxyl group. The family name is carboxylic acid, which means that the molecule is going to end with OH acid. You then has to consider the longest carbon chain. It definitely needs to consider, it needs to include the carboxyl group, and it needs to include this carbon in the carboxyl group. There are 5 carbon. So pent leaves me with a branch here. Now that's a chloro, because halogen is always a branch and you need to end it with O. You need to indicate the position of the branch. Always start here, because this is your functional group, your principal functional group. So you have to start on the end that's closest to your principal functional group. Even though this end is closer to a branch, the functional group takes a higher priority. So I'm going to start here, and then 2. It keeps doing this, and I don't know what that is. 3, 4, 5. So you have 5 carbon. The branch is now on carbon number 4. So actually it's looked here 5. We have 4 chloro. You don't need to indicate the position of the carboxyl group because it's always on carbon number 1. So 4-chloropentanoic acid is 5. 2C. Why did I do this? Okay, so we have 2 OH and then 3 chloro. Now the chloro is not going to be a suffix ever, but the OH is of higher priority than the alkane, which is CC. This is a hydroxyl group. I think this is slightly confusing, but the name of the group is hydroxyl, and the name of the family is alkanol or alcohol. So the suffix that you use is not YL, it's actually OL from alcohol. But anyway, what can we do? And then longest carbon chain is this one, 2C, which is east. You have 3 branches of chlorine. So it's a chloro, and I'm definitely going to need to use tri at one point because there are 3 branches. Now you also have 2 of the hydroxyl groups. So you're going to need to use di to indicate that. So diol, this is a diol. Please don't call it diol. when you number the longest carbon chain, because there are a few places where the branches can be and where the hydroxyl can be, so you definitely need to indicate their location. You need to start from the end that's closest to the functional group, the principal functional group. So 1, 2. Now this name is actually quite fun to write. Okay, all 3 chloro branches come out of carbon 2, so I'm going to go 2, 2, 2. Each number is to represent the location of one branch, so you cannot write 2 only once because it's not clear whether there's any coming out of carbon 1, so you literally have to write 3 times. Don't write 2 cube, that's weird. Try chloro, and then is 1, 1 diol. So you also need to indicate the locations of the hydroxyl groups. They both come out of carbon 1. Once again, 1 number per hydroxyl group, and then put a diol at the end. So quite a good one, I think. 2D. Now we have a hydroxyl again. So hydroxyl is here. Definitely takes the highest priority. The rest is just alkane and a bromine. So number 1, I know that my molecule is going to end with OL. Number 2 is I need to look at the longest carbon chain, which contains 3 carbon, which is prop. I do have a branch here, a bromo, and you do need to consider to indicate the location of everything. So 1, 2, 3, you do have to start from the end that's closest to your functional group, and then you put the name. 3 bromo prop and 1. Oh, there you go. Ooh, okay, this looks more exciting than it actually is, because we're going back to just alkane. If you just look, everything is CC single bond, so this is just an alkane, and it's going to end with ANE. Maybe the exciting part is in the longest carbon chain, because it does it everywhere. So okay, let's start from this end. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Now if I go here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So I do need to do this. This is my longest chain, which contains 6 carbon. Hex is 6, which leaves me with 2 branches, one here and one here, and they both methyl. So you're going to have a dimethyl somewhere in your name just to show that you have 2 branches of the same type. You do need to indicate the location of these branches. I don't think it matters from what end you start because the 2 branches are identical and they are in the middle of the molecule. So I'm just going to start from this end, but you can very well start from the other side. 4, 5, 6, and then name. 3, 4 dimethyl hexane. F. Okay, you have a double bond, and then you have a bunch of single bonds. So the double bond takes higher priority, which means that this molecule is going to end with ENE for alkene. Longest carbon chain, you cannot use this because this doesn't have the double bond in it. So your longest carbon chain needs to contain the double bond, which means that I think 1, 2, 3. I'm going to go here because I think that's the longest possible, which has 5. So 5 carbon, which is pent, which leaves me with 2 branches. One here and one here. They're both methyl. So the name of the branch is methyl, and because you have 2, you're going to need a di somewhere for dimethyl. You do need to indicate the locations of everything. I'm going to start from this end, which is closest to the double bond, 1, 2, because if I start from this end, then the double bond will be on number 3 and not number 2. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So the double bond, which is the principal functional group, is of higher priority than the branches. And then I'm going to name it. So 3, 4 locations of the branches, dimethyl pent 2 in. Is that it? That's it. Oh no, that's not it. There's question G. Okay. Don't know why I sound so disappointed. I'm not really. There's an OH here, and then the rest is carbon. So the hydroxyl is definitely of highest priority if you consider between OH and CC. So this molecule is going to end with OL because this one is of higher priority. And then I'm going to consider the longest carbon chain that contains hydroxyl, which I think is this one, which has 5 carbon or pent, which leaves me with a few branches. They all methyl branches. You have 3, so it's a trimethyl. You do need to indicate the locations, obviously, because so many places it can be. We'll start on this end, which is closest to the hydroxyl. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then name. So 2, 3, 3, 2 methyl branches coming out of carbon 3, so you have to write that number twice. Ooh. Okay, trimethyl pent 2 pentane 2. That's it. Oh, there's one more. Okay, how long is this question? I wrote this question. I don't know why I asked that question. I just used the word question 3 times in a sentence. Okay, number 1. Once again, OH is of highest priority, so it's going to end with O. I probably could just write it here. Number 2, longest carbon chain definitely needs to contain this OH. So you can't do that. You have to, I'm going to start from this end really. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay. 5 carbon pent. Number 3, I have 2 branches, one here and one here. They both methyl. Not sure why it started to become italic. Dimethyl. You definitely need to number the longest carbon chain. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yes. And 2, 3. So 2, 3 dimethyl pentane 1O. Okay. Next one. How long is this question? Once again, I wrote this. I should know. You have an OH, so that's your highest priority group present. So the molecule is going to end with OL. Longest carbon chain. There's not really only one chain here. This is a little bit anticlimactic. Coming out of the last question. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 carbon in the longest chain, so that's pent. The branch, there's only one, bromo. You do need to number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You do need to start from the end that's closest to the functional group. And then why is everything has 5 carbon? 4 bromo pentane 1O. Okay, this question goes on forever. Although I think this is the last one. What's this? COOH. very sour. I don't know what I'm talking about. COOH is carboxyl, and I think I said sour because vinegar is a type of carboxylic acid. So carboxyl is always of highest priority, which means that every time you see it, you know that the molecule is going to end with oic acid, which is the suffix for carboxylic acid. Your longest carbon chain needs to contain this carbon, and you definitely need to count this carbon as part of your longest carbon chain, this carbon, which is a common mistake that people don't do. So 5 is pent. You have 2 branches left. That, which is a metal, and this, which is a chloro. And then I need to number. Now you always start here, but you don't need to indicate the position of the carboxyl group in the name, because it is always on the terminal carbon, which is the carbon at the end, and it is always carbon 1. But I need to number so I can show where the metal and the chloro are. And then step 5 is to write the name. Alphabetical order, C comes before M. So I'm going to start with the chloro. So 4 chloro, 3 methyl pentanoic acid. I feel like I have an obsession with number 5. Everything so far has 5 carbon in the longest chain. I don't know why. Okay, that's it. And that is the end of question 2.